Hello, everyone. It's World Autism Day today, and of course, that's why I'm talking about this lovely book written by Solape Azazi called My Friend Has Autism. And what is so beautiful is that I have her here with me today. Welcome, Shalakwe.
Thank
And
you.
just before we go on, Shalakwe is a certified autism specialist, and she's also the author of this book. She's the founder of Cradle Lounge Special Needs Initiative, and she'll be telling us a lot more about the book today and everything she does regarding autism. So you're welcome, Shalakwe.
Thank you
Thank you
very
for
much.
being here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Great, great, great. So, my first question is, what inspired you to write this book? Tell us about this book, the inspiration behind it.
So, this book was inspired by a lot of things, but the majority of it all was, I think, 2 years ago. Um, I know that the statistics for autism then was one in, I think, 40 something, and then um, earlier last year, there was the CDC news report, and then it went to one in 36 or 30 something. And for me, that was a striking number, because I remember when we started on, because my son is autistic, and we started on this journey when he turned 3. We started officially on the journey when he turned 3, and I remember then it was 1 in 56 or 50 something, and for me it was, whoa, it was a staggering number. And I felt like a lot of times, I mean, with my field of advocacy, I go out, I talk to a lot of people, but most of the conversation I'm having is with the adult population. So I'm having to stand up and do give talks, give speeches and stuff with adults, engage with the adults. And I felt like 1 in 36, there's no way that this number is not already in the classroom. And then we have other children mixed with other children in the same space. And I felt like it would be nice for you to have, in a story form, break the story to children, let them understand what, because a lot of times you say, oh, I'm different, you're different, and so we are accepted. But you have to also help them understand that my difference does not mean that I cannot do anything,
Yeah.
or I'm not, useful in different areas. It's just what it is. It's a different wiring of the brain. But so those were the things that inspired me to want to write a children's book about what autism is.
Great. And then while reading the book, there's something I noticed. I saw that you wrote insightful, you need to know information at the bottom, which was brilliant for me because I also was learning from there. So, did you also have parents in mind? I know you said you've been speaking to parents, but did you have them in mind as well when you were writing that bit? The I need to know, you need to know. So,
Absolutely. Because again, like I say, I do a lot of advocacy work, and even though the book is targeted at age demography for children from 5 and above, I felt like even as an adult, you can sit down with the book and you can learn. And so that was why I put the "Do you know?" A lot of, in fact, all of the pages had "Do you know?" and then there was a glossary at the back also to help further explain what the different terms are, and just you never can tell. As an adult, you can pick it up to learn. As a child, as a sibling, because again, I've had situations whereby parents have reached out to me, and then they've told me that the book has been very helpful with with helping them explain to the sibling what's going on in the house. And again, it's a good icebreaker. For example, World Autism Day, you want to talk about autism in your classroom. You have an
exactly.
inclusive classroom, and you don't know how to start the topic. A book is always a good way to start a conversation. So that's the reason why that is there.
So it was really, really good. So reading the book, I couldn't help but notice that you depicted your son as one of the characters, which brings me to my next question. Tade, who is the main character in the book, Was is he a real life character? So was this book inspired by a real event? Just because I saw your son as a character in there, it kind of like made me wonder if it was inspired by a true event.
Tade is a fictional character.
Okay.
But then Tade is anybody. And a lot of times we teach our children on the spectrum how, social skills, how to be friends with someone, what to say to a new person, how to communicate, because the three major characteristics of autism is social communication, social interaction, and we have restrictive or repetitive behavior. And so you are teaching a lot of social skills to our children on the spectrum, but many a times we don't get to teach the other children how to become friends with our children. And so the whole role of writing from a different perspective is for someone who is neutral to learn to join in the world of someone who is on the spectrum. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So, at what point did you decide to become, an advocate for autism awareness? At what point did you decide, okay, I'm ready to share my experience, and do something about this?
My son, at age 2, was flagged down for global developmental delay and possibly autism, because again, you don't give a definitive diagnosis until you're 3.
Yeah.
And I remember that throughout that 1 year period, wait period for me to get an official diagnosis, it was a lot, and I didn't have the support or a lot of things that I found. Google is your friend and also your worst enemy. So I would go on and I would research and I would look for tools and resources, but I was trying to look for resources that were very peculiar to my own condition, peculiar to my, you know, more culturally relevant, culturally significant. And I struggled to find a lot of that. I struggled to find a lot of that. And even after our official diagnosis and, the journey started, I was looking for tools for, a lot of things that were peculiar to my situation. And I realized that I didn't find a lot. And even on the journey, I started to meet a lot of parents that were further down the journey to help me grow, to help me understand, to help me decipher this. And I realized that the same position I am in, a lot more other parents would also be on that position. And there was a lot of, taboo and mystery and all of those things surrounding, autism. And I felt like the earlier I get into it and share my story, I'm young. However, autism is not peculiar to class, it's not peculiar to religion, it's not peculiar to age. So I felt like if I can lend my voice to this cause, I feel like I'll make it a little bearable, a little more understandable for other parents that are just coming and are new on the journey. So that was what started me off, because there was lack of resources, and not enough understanding on the journey. So it's not that there's not a lot of people advocating, but I feel like if more voices are saying the same thing, then it's easier to understand and it's easier to have a more uniformed decision towards how to manage and care for autism.
I've also noticed that a lot of parents really struggle with this, but for some reason you have been very intentional. Goes to show from even your answer to the previous question, and just even doing some research around your work and everything, I've seen that you've taken steps to help your son improve, in communication, like how you use nursery rhymes to help him in communication, and then also like teaching him how to express himself through art. Now, how would you, what kind of tools, have you used that can help parents who are struggling? Because a lot of people are actually struggling to understand what works for their children, who are on the spectrum and all of that. But you seem to have been intentional. In fact, you almost make it seem easy. But we all know it's not. So can you just like throw more light on that aspect? What kind of tools did you start with? How have you been able to understand your son better and offer the kind of help you're offering?
That's a very loaded question, but but I would start by saying first thing first. When we started this journey,
Yeah.
two things were clear to me. I said, one, I have to redefine what my new normal is. Because again, like you said, I'm very intentional about stuff, and I've always been very intentional about whatever I want, and so for me it was more like, okay, this is real, this is happening, this is my son. I mean, being autistic does not take anything away from the fact that he's my son. And so first and foremost, love and acceptance.
Yes.
So for me, that was the beginning of it. I decided that this is my son, and it doesn't take anything from him, it doesn't take anything away from him. And so I would love him the best way I can. And then in that loving environment, you start to see what his strengths are. What does he like to do? Who is he? You take time to discover what your child is about.
Yeah.
It's when you know what your child is about, then you start to see what areas he's struggling with. And then you start to say, okay, how can I use the strength that he has to help him in those areas that he's struggling with, to help him become a better version of himself. And for us, we realized that my son is a visual learner. He loves colors. He comes alive with colors. And so we used that area to start to say, okay, you know what? Let's put pictures together with words. Let's match pictures of this together with words. Let's see how you can translate these pictures into your understanding. So we used a lot of pictures for him in the beginning stages. And then because I realized that he loves art, he loves to scribble, he loves to doodle. Sometimes when he's saying something, I'll say, draw it for me. Because maybe I'm not understanding, or sometimes I'm understanding, but I want to see what level of understanding is going on with him. I say, or he tells me, Mary, okay. And again, we did a lot of nursery rhymes, because nursery rhymes are very useful because he loves to sing. So with my son, he had so it wasn't that it was non-verbal.
Okay.
Yes, it was vocal, but he had he didn't have functional communication skills, meaning that he didn't use the words appropriately, functionally, so those were the. And then with nursery rhymes open doors to a lot of things. For us, it opened a lot of doors because when he's singing it and then he's seeing it, so he's associating. You say Mary had a little lamb, he's seeing the lamb, is seeing Mary, and then you say, what does Mary have? A little lamb. And so you see the communication is understanding, is joining the dots. And then another time you say, oh, can you draw Mary? Where is Mary right now? Is she in the garden? Or where can it be? Where can a lamb be? Oh, on a farm. Okay. The lamb is on the farm. You see, so you are trying to expose and explore those communication areas. And so his understanding is connecting the dots. So for me, that was the role nursery rhyme played. But again, I would say, know your child. It might work for me, it might not work for you.
Yes.
Your child might struggle in different areas than my child, so you can't use my own yardstick to measure or to find intervention for your child. Remember, I said I first started with loving.
Yes.
And in the process of loving and accepting, I was able to see his strength, and I was able to see where he struggled with. And where he struggled with was the communication bit. And then we were able to look for ways to bridge that communication gap. So it's very important. Knowing your child will lead you to knowing the tools to use to help your child.
Love and acceptance first, even for everyone generally, and of course for your son. That's a great one. So I also have seen that Cradle Lounge is an initiative you founded to also help families. So it's not just for your son, you've taken it, to a bigger stage. So tell us a little more about the Cradle Lounge Special Needs Initiative.
The Cradle Lounge started off in my backyard. So, true story. I remember when my son started nursery, and it was nursery one, and I realized that he didn't have friends.
Okay.
So, being me, I decided to invite all the children in his classroom during there was a midterm, and I love art anyways. I love to play with colors and stuff. So I decided to invite all the children in his classroom
Mm,
for a 2 day art splash.
yeah.
And I did tell the parents, you don't need to come with, don't
Mm-hmm.
bother
Don't
coming.
worry.
It's just send the
Yeah.
kids. We're like, are you sure you can handle them? I said, yeah, I can handle them. I can handle, just bring them, just tell me what their dietary needs are, and just send the kids to me. And so the parents did the first day, and then they sent the children to me, and we had a blast. It was a 2 hour fun art fun splash. And in fact, the feedback was, parents called me and said, ah, is it only 2 days, can we extend
Wow.
it? Can we extend it? And then, so we did the first midterm in
Yeah.
my backyard, and then the holidays came, and then they said, are we having something like
Oh
that
wow.
too?
So they reached out.
Yeah, and I said, of course we're going to have something like that. And so we did. So after the meeting, we did the holiday proper, and then after a while, we did it back to back like that. And I said, oh, okay, we could move this out into more things. And so it wasn't just for the kids, it was, how can I also reach the adults?
Adults, yeah.
So it started with sharing my story, because again, the power of a story,
Yes.
so I believe that when you say stuff and you say it on the surface, people, they struggle to empathize, but when they know that this is coming from a real story, this is
Exactly.
real, this
Yeah.
is happening, you start to awaken people's conscience to things. And because this is a real life issue that we're talking about, so people started to listen. And then you see, when I finish talking, someone will tell you, oh, my sister, my brother, and then they open up. And it's like, because for me, I don't feel like you need to, it's not a thing of shame. My
Yes.
child is on the spectrum, it's not a thing of shame. My child has grown into himself. He's done so many things that I have other kids, or all the other kids on
Exactly.
that are neurotypical, I haven't even achieved. I mean, my son he's done his first art exhibition, is going on to a second art exhibition, is only 10, or rather is going to be 10 in a few days.
Wow.
So imagine that. I mean, how many neurotypical children can say that of
Yeah.
themselves, or they've achieved that? So for me, it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's something I'm proud of. It's something I'm. So I also, for me, by telling my story, I'm giving strength to other
Of
people that are
course.
on the journey. So
Beautiful and well done to Priye. In fact, I saw his artwork and I was like, wow, was this really him? Well done to him. And I
thank
mean,
you.
great initiative. Great initiative. So what is the biggest obstacle you have overcome in Priye's life?
My biggest obstacle, because I mean, you're still on the journey, and so you still get to, have your, different things that you have to get over. But I think for me, the biggest one was having to come to terms with my son's diagnosis. The year I had between him having, um, the diagnosis of global developmental delay and possibly autism, to then having his official autism diagnosis, was it was a very trying period for me. It was a trying period for my family, because that during that one year I had another baby, and so I was, tending to my
Yeah.
baby, tending to myself, tending to my family. We were struggling to understand what all of this was, because again, with my son, he spoke. We have
Yeah.
videos of him when he was a lot younger, talking, communicating, playing, and then suddenly he just stopped. And then we were where we were, and it was a lot. So that
Yeah.
was a lot of was a lot of emotional grief, a lot of struggle for me to come to
Mm.
terms with it. But then I realized that when I did come to terms with with the
Yeah.
diagnosis, it became easier, because at that point I realized that, with love, with acceptance of
Yeah.
what this is, and with a willingness to help support my child, and together as a family. It became better. It became more of so it was more like there was a change, a shift in priority for me, a shift in perspective. It took me, shifting from pivoting from what I was used to, and then trying to rediscover the new normal and trying to live it. And then when we did that, it's I mean, I won't say it's not been challenging. I mean,
Yeah,
there are
of course.
days when I'm still grieving because, again, when you have a baby, when your baby's in your womb, you have dreams, you have aspiration, you have things you dream of for the child. And then coming to sitting across from a doctor, or going on Dr. Google, and then telling you it won't be, it can't be, you've seen all the negative, it would not be able to, it would not, it was very demoralizing. It was, so you will grieve
Yeah.
for that child you have wanted, that child you have dreamt of. But then after that, then you start to say, okay, that might not be the dream, but this is the reality. What do I do with it? And for me, it's been a wholesome journey. It's been beautiful since then. I mean, I still cry. I mean, there are times when some things will just take you back, and you'll be like, or sometimes you see, maybe you experience some, your child probably, some delays in certain
Yeah.
areas, and then you will grieve, you will cry. The grief is not a one grief, it's continuous. But then it's how you start to manage your expectation and manage your reality, and so stuff like that has helped me on the journey.
Yeah, it's quite an emotional journey. But yeah, well done for your strength and for inspiring all of us, honestly. It's been great, Um I saw that you're doing a documentary. Yeah. Can you just tell us a little about it?
So the need for documentary, just like the book, also came out from. So when I wrote the book, and then we were having so last year I did a lot of book talks and stuff, and then there was one time we were talking, and I said that I think there needs to be a visual representative of what autism is in Nigeria, because a lot of times when you go online, you are quick to see what autism is with the Western world, but you don't see a lot of our own kind of depiction of what autism is, or you don't hear a lot of parents' voices, come on. And so for me, that so that inspired the need for a documentary, for us to have something documented, because you still talk to some people, and then they still say it's a rich man's disease. You still talk to some people, and then they say, God forbid, it's not my portion. Or you still talk to some people, and then they say it's something that when you are full, that's when you pull up that kind of that kind of issue. Or you still talk to some people, and then they tell you that no, it doesn't exist in our own environment. So, and again, okay, even if you say, oh, I want to write a book about it, we know now that we're in this fast world. Everything has to be visually stimulating. If it's not visually stimulating, people don't want to watch it. So that is the reason why, even though we want to talk about it, we need to put visual behind what we're saying, to engage the public, to engage people to understand that this is real. These are real families talking about it.
Brilliant. I'm looking forward to, watching that documentary when it comes out. So, finally, what advice can you give to those who are just starting their journey, with a child on the spectrum? So they've just their child has just been diagnosed, So what advice do you have for them?
I think for me, first and foremost, I would say breathe and keep breathing. And I would want to assure you that this too shall pass. It might feel like, this is the end of the world. It's too much. It's too much weight on my shoulder. I can't breathe. I don't know where to go from here. Breathe and keep breathing, because this too shall pass. I would say, first and foremost, see the child in front of you, not the child you wished for, not the child you dreamt of, not the child that you thought should have been, but the child in front of you. See the gift in front of you. And when you see the child, love the child, accept the child, And then you can start to figure out what it is that the child needs to thrive. First, breathe, then accept. Part of acceptance is seeing the child in front of you, knowing the child in front of you, loving the child in front of you, and find a support system, because this journey is not built for one person. It's not built for you alone to go. It's not built alone for you alone to carry. Find the right support, the right support that suits you. Support does not essentially mean, oh, okay, my family. You might find the support that you need outside of family. Take it. Take the help that you're giving. Don't say, I think it's my cross and I want to do this alone. No. When help is offered, if it's the right help that is right for you, take it. And remember, breathe and keep breathing.
Thank you very much. So, thank you guys for staying this long with us. This is the book, My Friend Has Autism. Purchase it for your friends, for your family. Everyone needs to be more aware of autism. More information will be in the caption where to buy the books, more information about Cradle Lounge and Shalape's beautiful work with autism awareness. Thank you so much, for coming. And yeah, I've had a great time. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.